Hey, welcome to the latest edition of First State Kopites. It's episode 29. We're getting closer and closer to the end of the season, of season 3. Podcast of Liverpool supporters in Delaware and friends of those Liverpool supporters. Thanks for listening on your preferred platform. Welcome to Diaz, who is in Baltimore, and Sean, who is in someplace in Delaware that we argued about where it was last week, so we're not going to do that again. Hi, Sean. Hi, Daz. It's been a lower excitement week, I think, after the EFL Cup win. Competition we didn't really care about. Maybe we did care about. So we made progress to the last 8 of the FA Cup. We had quite a challenging league game with West Ham. I'm gonna go back to the Norwich game. We'll do a quick round on that, before we're done, we will talk about the games ahead. Not sure that we're going to publish this before we play Inter, so maybe we'll gloss over that a little bit, and then we'll look ahead to Brighton, and maybe we'll have an informed view on some of the things that have come out this week as well. But before we talk about Mo Salah and the absence of fouls in his world, Norwich 2-1 really felt too easy this game, didn't it? Until Rashica scored. I'll start with you, Daz. It felt like we felt like peak Man United when Luis Diaz and Sadio Mane came off the bench when it's 2-1. Like, we'll show you.
Yeah, you had the temerity to score a goal, and that's your bollocks. Watch this. There's not really much to say. Like, we were in cruise control until we weren't. It felt like it was fairly routine. I think there was some good huff and puff from Norwich. But again, I think we've said that before. The way we play our matches, there's always going to be huff and puff from teams against us. And I think that you could probably say that against even the best teams. Everton made a great account of themselves playing Manchester City, and arguably after receiving an apology card from the PGMOL, that they. I think that it's fair to say that no matter how good a team is or how poor a team is, there will be a moment of huff and puff where it looks like there's the potential for some sort of drama late or early, regardless of what time it is in the match. But to put a finer point on it, I think that we made it look fairly routine with most of our second squad, well, reserves, and that is a true testament to how far we've come as a team. You look at some of the cup teams that we put out in like the late teens or even early teens. It was frankly embarrassing. And now we're at a point where you've got Taki Minamino, who's scoring 9. He's got 9 goals now. He's got the best strike rate in the entire team for time played. Like, I'm just glad to see that we're healthy and we did the business, and now we march on to Forest.
So there was something special, I think, about his second goal, because it hit the post and maybe the bar, but the goals that do that always seem somehow more spectacular. It was quite special, I thought.
It was cultured too, because he had a lot to do when he pulled that ball down. It wasn't like he knocked it in with his hat.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Norwich, having scored a goal against us, which I know, Sean, you want to talk about, I think it was Gomez defending on that goal, which felt like someone who'd forgotten how we defend those shots. But in the end, Norwich felt like they were just a little bit too easy to beat. I don't know if that's because they were focused on trying to win league games, but I don't think we're going to have another game as easy as that for the rest of the season. What do you
Manchester
think?
United.
Everton. Okay, all right. Yeah. It's going to be close, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it obviously was a heavily rotated lineup for us. They made a game of it, but yeah, it wasn't one that you ever thought was seriously in doubt. So yeah, I mean, it was nice to see Gomez kind of back. It's a little bit harsh to I think blame anyone for that goal. He just kind of blasted, It's one of those. How many times is he going to hit the ball like that from that distance and score? We could have defended it a little bit better, but you know, I can't remember. There was one player that got lost out of position, and Gomez was kind of stuck 1-on-1. But anyway, yeah,
It was Konate.
Yeah, because
Konate kind of stepped. You watch him. If you watch it back, he steps in and kind of makes like a kind of leaves a leg out challenge, and it goes past him, and it was just kind of a comedy of errors that you don't see from Konate. Sorry to cut you up, but it was just like it just seemed like Konate doesn't necessarily defend like that. So it was one like microsecond of a brain fart, and we got punished for it, which happens in this league, which I was kind of alluding to earlier.
But I mean, it had to be the first time that 11 played together. It's probably the first time that back four played together. You know, I mean, it's so that type of stuff is going to happen, and you just hope that you're not giving up chances when you make a mistake like that. But it was a really nice goal on their part, but they didn't they didn't get much throughout the game. So, and we could have scored, I thought, a few more, but
handball.
Oh yeah, right. I'm forgetting. I'm having trouble thinking back to the Norwich game. For some reason, it seems like it's been a long time since that match. But yeah.
Wavy lines. It's just because they come so thick and fast. Like you have to catalog these games so quickly. It's like it takes a while for everything to download.
I think they lulled us into a sense of security though in that game because it was so comfortable for so long. And obviously, if the handball had been given, where the guy definitely didn't lean down and block the shot that was probably going in, it would all have been good. So I apologize if it wasn't Gomez, it was Konate. But I think one of the things he did in that move was what Van Dijk does so well is he blocks half the goal and Alisson saves the other half. And I think what happened in that move was the half of the goal that Alisson was covering wasn't the bit that was being covered by Konate, I guess. In that
no, it was Gomez. There was Gomez in front of the shot.
Okay. All right.
It was Gomez in front of the shot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were both slightly at fault for it, and I think there was a third player in there that could have done so. It was just one of these things where everybody.
Funny Naby Keita because he's always to blame, right?
They had that late second shot too that Ali had to palm away.
That was a nice save. Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, although I'm not sure they wanted to go to extra time, given the challenge that faces them. Right? It's like, let's wait an extra half hour. What game we're not going to win. Yeah. Anyway, didn't do them much good. Lost to Brentford yesterday, obviously. On Saturday. I think they lost to Brentford on Saturday. Let's move on to West Ham, because clearly we're not recalling tons of that game in a memorable way. So a couple of narratives I've heard about West Ham. I'll start with you, Daz. One is that how unlucky were West Ham. The other was Liverpool really should have won that game before West Ham had chances. And even if you're counting their chances, they had two in the second half, between 55 and 90. So it wasn't like they were dominating the play. They had a couple of breakaways. What was your take on the game?
I think we always talk about this, and I think Sean Rogers is probably most aptly described the way that most of us watch football matches with like the inner chimp out. Yeah. When you go back and look at something in the cold light of day, it's never as bad as you remembered it. I guess it's human nature to remember something more in the moment as being more dramatic than it actually is. If you go back and look at the film, it's not usually as bad, especially if you have something if you're invested in the outcome. I was on the edge of my seat a couple of times. It was the one off the line. Look, let me put it this way: if Mo had scored in the first 2 minutes, I think that game plan would have been completely different because their nose had been bloodied at that point. And most teams, I think, it's kind of fallaciously believed now that if they can hang in for long enough against us, they'll get a late chance. And that could be true, but I'm sure some statistician somewhere will tell me that I'm having a laugh. In terms of the overall flow of the match, it's West Ham is a gnarly team to play against, and they beat us. Like at their gaff, they beat us, and we weren't necessarily at our champagne best, but they still hung an L on us, and so they've got. And I know that there was a lot of talk beforehand that they're not as good as they've been. They've had a dip in form. That doesn't matter. When you're playing Liverpool Football Club, it doesn't matter how deep your dip in form is. You're playing Liverpool Football Club, and I can imagine that David Moyes would have wanted nothing more than to shake well, haven't won at West Ham haven't won a game at Anfield for what? It's been a long time.
He has never won a game at Anfield. I think that's part of the narrative.
Well, West Ham too, because you listen to West Ham fans, it's like you're just not expecting all the points.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that that's something that they really would have liked to have changed in their ledgers, and that they made a really good account of themselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Antonio is probably what Chelsea thought they were getting from Lukaku again, and he's kind of like, for a guy his size, he's always interested. He always feels like he's in with a sniff, and he seems to relish the battles, which is great too. And I knew it wasn't going to be an easy game, but I still feel that if Mo had slotted that one earlier, it would have completely changed the overall dynamic of that game.
Yeah. I don't think it was just that one either, because the ball that rolled around on their line, which apparently had a 0.0 xg, which is interesting, right? Like it could have gone in like 3 or 4 times. Apparently, none of those counted towards xgs. It felt like if we put one of those things away, it would have been a very different game.
Well, I know we have Luis Diaz on the agenda, but a couple of his weren't far off. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking specifically the one that there was one that was a site that what's his grill probably had covered, and then there was the one that he hit like short side that like he wouldn't have gotten a sniff at if it had been on goal. So I think that Luis Diaz, when he finally starts, when he gets his sight, he's gonna put some pretty incredible goals. And I remember Coutinho, when he first started, he was hitting balls like what the fuck. I think that's actually what when I was texting, I was like, what the fuck? And it just like it automatically just like auto-corrected to Coutinho. Because I'm like, what the hell is he hitting the ball from there from? And then like next thing you know, like he's scoring these worldies from just outside the 18-yard box. And I have a sense that we're gonna get that from Luis Diaz too. Once he gets one, they'll come in bagfuls.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sean, last thoughts on West Ham. Don't know where you want to go. Like the deficiencies of the XG, I thought would be an interesting topic for you, but you can move on from that.
I thought.
Hold on. You're going to sleep mode.
I can't look it up on my phone this time. No, so I thought it was actually a pretty impressive win, because I thought I actually thought it's not like we played badly, but we were really off it. It was one of those games where just nothing was clicking. I don't know what was going on. It was like somebody spiked the water before the game or something like that, especially in the front three. Because I can't remember Mo ever having a game like he was. Again, it wasn't like he was awful, but he was just off. Like he wasn't his normal self. And we, still we could have had a number of goals. They could have scored, a couple. The clearance off the line by Trent was great. But we were clearly the better team. I think we definitely could have scored 3 goals. Maybe they could have scored 1. I haven't looked that closely at the XG, honestly, since the weekend, but I know they had a relatively large number. I think a lot of that is Antonio.
Sure. Most XGs Liverpool this season at Anfield.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
I think
caveat is some of the XG could have been offside. It just wasn't called.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think they had 2 really big chances on that one play that was cleared off the line, right? I mean, that was 2 of their big shots, so it kind of inflated. But some of the models probably actually take it out. But yeah, I mean, I thought Antonio was just a problem again. I thought that was a big part of it. Like, we just have a hard time. The first time we played him, he really kind of beat Matip kind of frequently in the air. And he was giving him nightmares. And then my expectation was like, Konate's a little bit bigger. maybe a little bit pacier, and he had just as difficult of a time with him, I thought. I mean, he's not an easy player to play against. I think you said before the game, Daz, like they're kind of a perfect foil for the way we want to play. Like, and a lot of it has to do, I think, with Antonio, because he just loves that role of sitting in midfield and kind of getting those clearances, getting those headers, and starting to break.
Springing.
Right. And that's usually what we're so dominant against. When people clear the ball, we regain possession pretty quick. And it was a lot more difficult to do that against them. So, I think that was a big part of it. And I thought Mo especially, but also, even though he scored, I thought in the first half, Mane was a little off too, a couple, touches where he lost the ball. And we just weren't, we weren't clicking. Second half, it was weird. I thought like our front three started playing better, and then the midfield was a little bit more off than it was in the first half. So, it was just one of those games, but it's one of those games that we won a lot of in the 1920 season, that were like these tough 1-0 wins. A couple of those we scored late in the game. So it was one of those where we kind of were able to grind it out. I think Klopp said something to that effect after the game too. It was a great win because we really weren't on it.
Yeah, definitely good things, bad things about this game. So we don't play West Ham again, but City do. Do we think West Ham are a team that can cause them problems?
Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, we can
hopefully, but
we can hope. It's weird. City, we have similar styles, but they do play slightly different than we do. And for whatever reason, it seems like we often struggle more against those low block teams that are just going to pack it in, try to hit us on the counter. Whereas City's issues are really more just like fundamentally they're not as good at defending. They just don't have Van Dijk and Ali back there. So
I don't think it's a fundamental difference. I just don't think they have the personnel that we do. Our success there is almost entirely dependent on, because think about how easy we got at when we were missing Verge and we were missing Martin. When we were throwing midfielders in back there, because Klopp almost seemed disinclined, to put it nicely, to try and adjust to the personality he had, and we suffered as a result. So it's any type of sustained pressure or proper counter-attacking, and City are like turtles on their backs, and they don't have the personnel that we have. And what makes it work for us is the fact that we have who we have back there. And I think someone pointed it out on the Anfield Wrap today about how that kid from Inter Milan got the ball and he was off to the races, and he looked up and he's like, it's Virgil van fucking Dijk, and he just stopped. Like he dropped both anchors.
Yeah. Whereas Jadon Sancho apparently didn't have that issue yesterday against Man City.
Nope. What a finish that was, by the way. I'm not really going to laud them, but oh my God, it was filthy.
I think there's a lot to learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a couple of games coming up this week. Probably if you listen to this podcast, the game against Internazionale has already happened. We're 2-0 up from the first leg. It feels like there's only downside here. We need to protect our lead. So let's talk one time around about playing Inter. They won 5-0, I think, over this weekend against the bottom team in Serie A. They possibly are the best team in Italy. I don't know what that means in terms of kind of where everyone else is. So Daz, what's your hope, expectation about playing Inter Milan tomorrow night?
My expectation is that they spend the first 10 to 15 minutes trying to score one to make it a nervy affair. All their data guys and all their video guys have probably been looking at the way that teams have tried to get to us and have had limited amounts of success, but that seems to be their golden periods are probably the first 10 minutes of either half. So if I don't know how Klopp is going to approach this. I'm pretty sure I know who he's going to use, because this is the trophy I guess this is a question that you hear proposed all the time. Would you rather have the 20th league, or would you rather have the 7th big years? And the answer to that is fucking both, mate.
Yes.
But
The answer is yes.
and if you ask all the players, I'll tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
But I don't see him going there looking to play conservatively. Small C conservative. Thank you, Neil Atkinson. But I think that I think that he'll play the way that the only way he knows how to play. And I expect a Mo that, to Sean's point, wasn't the best version of Mo that we've ever seen. And I think I said this on our group chats. I was like, a 7 out of 10 Mo still feels it's the 7 out of 10 Mo, but we're so used to 8, 8.5, 9 all the time that it feels like that's a precipitous drop off, and it's not really.
Mm-hmm.
But he hates coming off, and you could see it on his face. And Klopp gave him a hug, but it was like you could imagine like he was hugging a porcupine, all the quills coming off of him. He was so prickly. but I think that woe betide the Inter fullback at this point, because I think he's going to try and make it not necessarily a statement game, but I don't think we'll see two of those on the bounce.
Yeah.
And
he probably also is very interested in being the highest goal scorer in the Champions League, as much as anything else.
Yeah. So I think that we'll see him at the races. I know Thiago is back in training. I'm not sure you'll put him on the start. My sense is Naby will probably get the start, just because, and we've talked about this before as well, I think even on these year airwaves, that Naby's becoming a way more accomplished systems player. And I think you saw that against West Ham this last weekend as well. I think we're starting to appreciate that he's capable of doing something other than being the German Naby that we've got. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Thiago get 20 minutes at the end with an eye on Brighton for the weekend. But I think he'll go with the same midfield. And if I think Matip will probably come back in for Konate. But I think I'd be surprised if Klopp went conservative, or tried to change his game plan, because it worked for us, and it worked for us in Inter.
Well,
I think that if they do come at us, the gaps will appear, and if we can exploit those gaps, if we get one early, I think it's end of the fixture. I don't think they're not going to score 3 or 4 goals to beat us.
And I think the big benefit of the Champions League games is we have 5 subs.
5 subs.
He could actually start people he's no intention of finishing. So, whether that's Thiago or whoever he chooses. Because I think at this point, given the fixture list, we probably want to have people like a peak condition for Arsenal.
Sure.
So it'd be great to get through this. A couple of goals in the first half, be awesome. Then we can trade all the people out. Sean, what's your hope and expectation? Because I think to Daz's point, Inter are not a bad team. Maybe the best team in Italy right now. They so I think last time I said they haven't won a game since they played us. Well, apparently they did, because they won 5-0 the weekend. So what is your expectation about playing them?
I agree with most of what Dad said. But I guess I'm
Can I get you to sign an affidavit of support, please?
I feel like they'll come out and try to get an early goal. I don't think that we're going to back down, because, if we score 1 or 2, then that's it. They're not scoring 4 against us at Anfield. You know what I mean? It's just not happening. So, I based on the first fixture, I can't really see them dominating the midfield. I mean, I thought we controlled that pretty well. So, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident going into it. Having said that, if we listen back to it and we get knocked out, at Anfield, that'd be pretty terrible. But I don't see that being likely to happen.
Never happened before, actually, Sean.
It never has?
No. We've had a lead going into a game at Anfield. We've never lost.
Well, and in this case, actually, like specifically the away goals rule going away kind of helps us a little bit, because if somehow it does end up like 3-1, it'll go to extra time rather than them walking away with it. I think it's more, it's highly unlikely that they score more than 2 against us, and I think it's also pretty unlikely that we don't score at all. So,
considering what our XG has been at home, I think we have the highest XG of any team at home in recorded history, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
I think my guess is that they might not play Vidal this time, which, I think last time he didn't help them very much at all. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in terms of I think Gossens is back, and he's a big player for them on the wing. So, I don't expect it to be an easy match, but going in 2-0 up, is a big cushion.
So Klopp did actually mention that not having Barella is clearly an advantage to us. That's one of the things.
He's probably their best player, So
we have so many other things to touch on. Few little words on Brighton. Early kickoff on Saturday. Brighton have lost a bunch of games in a row. How are we feeling about that one, Daz?
I was at the Brighton game when who was the referee that allowed them to take? Was it Atkinson?
Probably
allowed them.
Almost certainly
allowed them to take the free kick before Adrian had been set.
Oh yeah.
I was at that game and I was furious.
Yeah.
My son added at least 3 more words to his lexicon. Not all of them were good. Actually, none of them were. But
he is Atkinson.
And then,
whatever you said, he is that guy.
Yeah. I like the way Brighton play football. I think that Potter's he's struck a good balance for a team that doesn't have the resources. He's gotten a lot out of some very tidy players. It's kind of, I'm not happy to see them fall on misfortune. Might have to keep it going for one more week. I'd be more than happy. I don't know. I don't want to get into that dick swinging phase where and the swagger where we're invulnerable or invincible, because when we're not. But I don't see Brighton somehow snapping out of what the best way to describe it is a slump. And I always say, like, every time I say something, I got to be made a show of, but I don't think it's rot per se. I just think maybe the message is getting lost, because I don't think they have that much in the way of injuries. Basuma didn't play this week, did he? I think
watch that game.
That's I was going to say, like, I'm not sure why they've fallen off a bit lately. I haven't looked at their injuries, but Basuma didn't play, I don't think, on the weekend. He's obviously a key player for them. I agree with you. I mean, I really like the way that they play. I thought that, they probably should have finished higher than they did last year.
Couldn't finish. They just couldn't finich.
Right.
They blew a whistle after the match and let Manchester United take a penalty after the game. I think
they have the same problem still, though. Like I was, I'm surprised they haven't gone out and been more aggressive at getting a, goal scorer striker. Because I think Potter, seems like a good manager too. You have to, you never can tell until somebody kind of moves up to a bigger club how they're going to do. But I think he's basically ready to take that step at anytime. But like you said, I mean, I'm pretty confident with anybody we play right now at this point. It's like, this past weekend we played West Ham, who are, one of the better teams in the league, probably, top 7 or so. And we played pretty bad. I don't want to say we played terrible. We definitely weren't nearly our best. And we still managed to come out with the 1-0 win. Now, like, a couple of things could have gone against us, but that's basically where we're at right now. I mean, we need to have a bad game, and then we also need things to go, even more against us, with like, penalty call or something like that. Not to get too arrogant, like you're saying. I mean, it's not like we can't lose. We definitely can, but it almost feels like things have to kind of get stacked against us in some way for that to happen. So, I'm pretty confident, especially given Brighton's form recently.
So I feel like I'm summarizing this with Brighton are a really good team. They've got into a bit of a mess recently. Let's hope they don't figure it out before we play them. But let's hope they really do figure it out before they play City. That would be my summary of our conversation there. This is my point to move on. Lots of things we talk about. Not sure how much time we have left.
All the time, Paul. All the time.
Feel like we should start with the Tompkins Times article about the fouls on Mo Salah. And this is probably a hashtag only Salah moment, but apparently he needs to play more than a game to get a foul, especially from certain Premier League referees. One good thing I noticed was the Paul Tompkins article was posted on Reddit and had, I think it said there was 10,000 hits on this article, which hopefully makes a difference. But essentially what the article said was that like there's a normal distribution of fouls versus touches in the opposition area, and Salah is not on that chart because he's so far an outlier of like how many times he has to touch the ball to be fouled. Start with you, Daz. What do you make of that? It feels obvious in hindsight, looking at like what we see every week, but it's amazing to see it stretch out in the stats that way.
Tompkins Times is an incredible resource for that exact reason, because you almost gaslight yourself. Like, I have to be fucking crazy to believe that like this is this ridiculous. And then he's like, but I have a chart for you and I have data for you. And it's all right here, you assholes. So it really is a breath of fresh air to be able to see it all laid out in data point style. And I hate data. I hate statistics. However, like it's not even like an inherent bias. Like it's, you see it and you're like, then you have your pundits with whatever their agenda is, like, oh, it goes down too easily, or why, like, mate, it's all there. Like, I know that you played when you guys had leather balls and headbutting in the box was allowed, like, but the game has moved on. And I think it's by not calling it out is tantamount to endorsing like the level of bullshit that some of these players have to put up with. And let's be fair, by and large, they're foreign players, and by and large, they play for bigger teams. I'm not sure what the stakes are, and I can't imagine like this is something at a higher level. We're like, yeah, well, let's make sure we take care of ours and not theirs. Like, but it's like, you look at it, like, we can all see this. We can all, like, it's evident to the naked eye. And you guys are continue to try and make some sort of like false narrative about like what it actually is. Call it what it is. Like it's beyond the pale. And then you have Tompkins as showing you as such, as like, I remember, look, what's Rudiger is a perfect example. Like, I feel like he's kind of the modern Fernandinho. Like it's almost like an assault every time he was on Mo's back, had his arm around his shoulders, across his neck, and put his leg out. Like, that's not when is that going to ever be called a foul? So it's like, he's one of those hard-nosed players that we all love to see, but it's a foul, man. It's still a foul. Call it a foul. If a guy gets hacked down in the box, he took his leg out. There was one a couple of weeks ago where Mo gets his leg taken out. I'll play on.
Yeah.
And then I remember Danny Welbeck, speaking of Brighton, like, there was a Zephyr that gently touched his left thigh and he went down. And they're like, oh, that's definitely a penalty. Like you've got it. That's my biggest issue with all the PGML ass wipes is like there's no consistency. It's always seems to be tinged by who it is and where they are.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm done. I'm gonna drink.
Well, I think it's hard to ignore, right? Because I saw a lot of people like commenting on this feed, different platforms, and it's like, how many leagues we lost as a consequence of some of this dodgy refereeing? Because this might be 3 now if we don't win the league this season. Because we've had so many more instances of where we should have had fouls, and City, because if you look at the graph, and we should probably share the graph on the when we publish the podcast. Grealish, Maddison, players of that ilk, Foden, get fouls. I think it's 4 times more frequently than Mo Salah does. Hey, guess what? Guess what that leads to? Your team winning games that they probably shouldn't, and we don't. Sean, I'll go to you next. So many things to be upset about with this. So this is one of the things where it's not funny where it's hashtag only Salah that gets treated in this way, because there are other stats that they like. He's way ahead of people. Where would you go from here?
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what the stats look like for his first season or two before they created this narrative that he and Mane are divers.
Oh, I have that. They're not quite as bad as they became in 2018, 19, 2019, 20.
Right.
Was not, but so they weren't great, by the way. They weren't great, but they got worse. And this season, apparently, they've come back slightly, but he's still he's an outlier in terms of the overall graph.
Yeah, I was going to say with the graph, I'm not looking at it, but it's like the low end, is like Grealish, and it's around 40 touches per foul. And then the high end, of the main part of the graph is 80. And then Mo's 120.
120, yeah.
He's such a huge outlier that if you post it, in a chat, and it gives you a preview of the graph, you can't even see Mo's.
Yeah.
So far off.
That's exactly what happened to me. I was like, where's Salah? I'm pretty sure he plays in this league.
Yeah. It's so ridiculous. I mean, I don't know if it had anything to do with it, but I thought it was particularly bad early in the game this weekend against West Ham. I thought in the first 30, 35 minutes, he was fouled probably 5 or 6 times that didn't get called. And a couple of them were just blatant. Like even the West Ham players, a lot of them just stopped because they assumed it was going to be a foul. And then Moss gave nothing. And everybody's sort of looking at him like, what are you doing? It happens all the time, but I did think it was particularly bad at the beginning of this West Ham game. He was getting fouled so blatantly, over and over again. They just weren't giving any calls.
So sorry, Sean. I don't know where I thought that added something into the agenda. Apparently, Moss and Mariner are the worst in terms of giving fouls for Salah. I think Salah needs to play 3 games with Moss to get 2 fouls. And we could have seen 4 in the game against West Ham, right? If somebody would be calling them as they were.
There's, and I think I don't think it was a penalty on replay, but I've seen I've seen much lighter fouls been given for a penalty than the one that Dawson went in on Salah. And he did get a piece of the ball, but he just absolutely took him out the legs.
So they didn't show it often enough to me to know, but my instinct was that he actually caught Salah, then got the ball, and then it bounced out.
So that's what I thought initially. I was like, that's definitely a penalty. And then Justin was like, no, it was clean. And I did watch it back, and he sort of gets the top of the ball and he hits Mo at the same time. But the point is, it's one of these things where sometimes if you get the ball, it can still be a foul. If you come in, too aggressive or basically dangerous play. And I thought that one was bordering on it. It didn't turn into something, but Salah easily could have gotten injured, with that tackle.
I think unfortunately it's only a penalty if you're Harry Kane. So
well, right, but that wasn't one of the ones I was referring to. There were a bunch. He was getting fouled, So
and the thing that didn't seem to carry over in the agenda was that Moss and Mariner are terrible, but they're not that much worse than the best referees in the league in terms of giving fouls. Salah, I think Tompkins pointed out that if it wasn't for Michael Oliver and maybe one other referee who we might be surprised by, can't remember who that is, then our average level of fouls for touches in the box is.
I think it was actually Pawson. Wasn't Pawson the one that gave him the most?
Yeah, it was.
Which
astounded me.
Yeah. I wonder if it's because he gives the other team a lot of penalties too. I don't.
Well, I guess he's not Kavanagh. He's not Tierney. He's not Atwell. He's not Coot, he's not. There's so many of them, right?
So Tierney was second, I think, which is another one that you don't think, like, he definitely doesn't favor us, clearly, especially based on this year.
Well, only if Kavanaugh's his VAR guy, there's a turnout.
Yeah, I mean, but it all. I mean,
Only hashtag only Kavanaugh.
Personally, I don't think Moss calls very many fouls in general, which I normally like. Except the problem is, I think a lot of times he doesn't call them because he's so far from the play.
By the way, I think he's
Really
still called more. He's still called more penalties on Liverpool at Anfield than he's called for Liverpool at Anfield.
Wow. Yeah.
So he called 2 in one game for Spurs, if you remember. One of which he was on the mic saying, "I don't know what happened. I'm giving a penalty."
He's a horrible referee, and it's not talked about enough. And he should not be refereeing. He's whatever. He's too old and he's not in shape. You know, like if you watch the game, he's always so far from the play. So, I don't know how you can make a call when you can't get up and down the pitch. You know.
So Sean, speaking for people who are out of shape and old, I don't know if that's a good reason, but
I could be referring to myself.
His judgment,
I'm not a Premier League referee.
But you don't get paid £125,000 a year to do it either.
Right. If I was getting paid what they're getting paid to, crappily referee a game, I'm pretty sure I could keep myself in shape, stay out of the pub for a little while.
Well, the rejoinder to that is round is a shape.
So yes, it doesn't hold that much hope for the rest of the season. So why don't we go ahead and bash some teams? Pick your team. So we're going to close it out now because obviously we are going to beat Inter. We're going to get past Inter. Given where Brighton are, we hopefully will win that one. Got a tough one coming up, which we'll talk about next week at Arsenal. Might be the hardest game we've got away from home, actually, in the rest of the season. Well, it's depending on a Champions League draw. But there's a couple of other teams. Wow, they aren't doing so great, are they? What's your perspective, Sean? I know you hate Chelsea. The post-Abramovich era doesn't look good for them, does it?
No, I'm looking forward. I'm hoping that Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, will buy him. That would be great. But
Justin, love that.
Yeah, no, I wanted to. I actually wanted to touch real quick on Arsenal. I think that the way they play matches up perfectly for us, and I don't know. In some ways, I'm more confident about that matchup than your Brightons or some of these others.
Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, Nottingham Forest. But yeah, I mean, we can all hope nothing's final yet, but we can all hope that the London grad era is finally over here. With I don't think we can. I don't think we can be too optimistic about that, or about finding out where all that money was coming from. But if there's one good thing that's coming out of that, good riddance, Roman.
So Daz, you're not convinced that Chelsea are on their way? Because I think we're hoping as much as we expect it to happen.
Well, I think it's fairly certain that he's going to sell the club. To whom? Dude, Sean, I can't believe you didn't pick the low-hanging fruit. That the guy that's going to buy Chelsea, the biggest dick club on the face of the earth, his name is two words for dicks. You didn't even pick that low-hanging fruit.
Well, I don't think he's actually going to. I think Roman's probably going to sell to his. Well, you shared it. He's going to sell to one of his buddies.
Yeah.
In the dark, whatever. Dark underworld of money management.
Well, I think what we're all hoping for, if I can really make a broad inference here, is that they don't get the 1.5 billion of do whatever the fuck you want with this money.
Yeah. The loan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that could kill them if they don't get the loan, I think.
Because think about it, that has been the basis of their success is what's the expression for? I'm not a finance guy. It's not unsecured loans. It's when you don't have a particular, like, the money's not supposed to go to something. What the hell is that loan called?
I don't know, but the Swiss Ramble on Twitter, which we mentioned last week too, did a fantastic breakdown of Chelsea's finances that I encourage everybody to look at. And they highlighted the fact that Abramovich still, even more than Man City, much more than any other owner, Chelsea's success is all about him pumping all his own wealth into that club. And again, like, nobody knows exactly where that money's coming from. Nobody ever has. And people get sued for ever, like, bringing up any of the suspicions. It's unfortunate. I'm hoping that in some ways that whole era will be coming to an end here, but
hopefully you're right.
The question is does the FA do an about face at this point?
Who?
The horn, the fuck all. Yeah, the barn, that the horse is already. Someone said, like, I think they said the horse is already out the barn, won the race, and had kid.
Yeah, there was a great Guardian actually cartoon which had now we've lost Gazprom, we need a new sponsor. Let's find a barn, like a barn door enabler, and the big thing is, the horse already left, but we've got a great barn door.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Yeah, I don't have any hope that, like, the morals are going to take over the FA or Premier League or world football. But if they can get the original sport washers out, that's better than nothing.
But they'll just bring a whole new bunch of sports washers in. That's the question.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of things we know and a lot of things we don't yet. So I think Man City increasing their commercial revenue during the pandemic is like, interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Chelsea, are they on their way out? But there are two things that are facts today. Manchester United and Everton football clubs are in a pretty bad shape. So pick which one you want to talk about, because I'm thinking Everton is like that Munch screen painting is kind of where they are now.
The Scream.
United. Wow.
Well, the best thing to come out of today was the Spurs Everton game where the fans were chanting, "You just a shit Steven Gerrard" to Frank Lampard.
Yeah,
you didn't see that.
I didn't watch. I wasn't able to watch any of that game, but I was following it, and I was still just shocked at how badly they got beat. I mean, Spurs aren't that good, I mean, like, they might end up finishing fourth, maybe they finish fifth, whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, Everton, my God, because it wasn't even like a fluke 5-0. I mean, they deserved to win that game 5-0. Like, it was definitely that lopsided.
They're shambolic. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
And then there was the hope that killed you on Sunday with the Manchester derby. Because I think we touched on the Jadon Sancho strike, which was sumptuous, but they were just outclassed in every. I don't know what the hell he was thinking of Paul Pogba being where he was, but I'm like, Ronaldo would have given you more than that.
Yeah. I mean, Maguire, that was I think that ended any debate about Harry Maguire being some sort of elite good center back. I mean, that was just a disaster.
So
I have some sympathy for Harry Maguire before you jump in, Paul.
Yeah,
I do. I think this is the downside of hype. Like, I think that he's been sacrificed to the hype gods because, well, Manchester United would never spend, and you have Wan-Bissaka as another one on there. They would never spend that much money on a shit player. Ta-da! He's an unfortunate casualty of that exact type of thinking. Like, everyone was screaming, is like, you're more than welcome to this if you think that this is going to be your salvation. I do have a little bit of sympathy for him. Not a lot, but I have some sympathy for, like, the plight that he finds himself currently in. Wan-Bissaka too. It's like, mate, I know that they call you the Spider-Man, and you do have really long legs, in fairness, but you're not at that level. And
Mhm.
I think United are much like the Russian army right now. They're all hype and no tires.
Yeah, I mean, so I saw somebody post that we got our entire back four plus all the backups, if you include Konate, Gomez, and Tsimikas, for about the same amount of money as United paid for Wan-Bissaka and Maguire. So, that's pretty incredible. And most of our money went to Virgil, which, is obviously like he anchors our defense, but just money not well spent. And I don't think, they got a big problem on their hands, because like if somebody does come in, they get a good manager, they can. I think if they get one or two
Sean,
players,
who's taking that job?
I don't know, but what I'm saying is if you were going to rebuild that squad, right, you would get, like, in my opinion, you'd get rid of Ronaldo and Pogba. You'd bring in two quality midfielders and either sell Fred or McTominay, or just like bench them, kind of use them as rotation.
You can't give them away.
But the problem that they have is they're not just gonna dump Harry Maguire, and he's not good enough to play center back for Manchester United for what they want to be. He's never going to be good enough, and they're not going to be able to move on from him easily anytime soon.
Can I wrap this up?
Yeah,
I think Maguire's way overpriced, but I don't think he's quite as bad as Wan-Bissaka for the money involved. So what Wan-Bissaka was 50 million. I mean, let's put this in perspective. Nico Williams, better or worse than Wan-Bissaka?
I would take Wan-Bissaka over Nico.
What?
I think that's being a little hard.
You're deluded.
I think a big part of our perception is, and I don't understand why this has happened, but like this whole narrative about Trent not being a good defender, like we are so spoiled. We're watching arguably the best fullback ever to play in front of us, and we watch him every week. So, I agree. Like Wan-Bissaka, like he's nowhere near what he's made out to be. He's nowhere near
really limited,
right? But like
he's like a 1980s fullback.
Nobody you watch is going to be remotely, they're not going to be remotely as good as Trent. They're not. That's why they're not asked to do nearly as much. I think Cancelo for Man City is the only. I mean, it's the only player in the league that I would even like say is remotely comparable. And then we have Robertson, who's probably the second best. We're just spoiled as hell when it comes to fullbacks.
There's nothing you've said I disagree with, but after you said Nico is not better than Wan-Bissaka.
Ladies and gentlemen, grab a drink, because it's clear that we're not going to be able to wrap this up for at least another 15.
No, I think Wan-Bissaka is he doesn't fit the system. Right, wants to play. I think he's a very good fullback if you play a more defensive system like a West Ham.
If you play your entire game in your own half, yes. Okay, yeah, you are correct.
He's not good in the attacking third, and he's not
what
great.
What does the modern fullback do? Just
no, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he's a great player or anything. I'm just, I'm glad he's not ours.
They'd be better with Nico.
Okay.
Guys, what's your perspective?
Not a terrible shout, actually. That is not a terrible shout.
I think Nico might become, he is likely to become as good or better. But
have you seen Fulham think he's the greatest fullback in the world? I mean,
they've given him the man of the match 2 games on the bounce.
I guess I haven't seen all that. No, but
he hit the crossbar this weekend from the halfway line.
He did.
Yeah. Oh, I did see that.
Yeah.
Not that that's necessarily the mark of a great fullback, because it's not really what you hired for. However, he did it.
Well, except,
I mean, Nico's not bad. I mean, I mean, I would put it as, I would definitely take Kostas Tsimikas over him. That's for sure.
Okay, we'll see. All right, we should probably wrap this up.
There's trouble in paradise.
So
there's going to be words after this.
Let's come back to this. We have the American Scouser thing to do, right? Okay. We will be back after the Brighton game, which is early game next week. Thank you, Daz. Thank you, Sean. If you enjoyed the podcast,
which you will, it's fucking amazing.
And if you don't disagree, whatever. If you disagree, agree, yes. Yeah. Also on Twitter, we only tweet and retweet from sources we think are credible. We're retweeting a lot of Nico Williams stuff, by the way.